Anyway, somebody to talk with who may know a little bit more about the ins and outs of the political world from the Conservative perspective is Andrew Allison, who is head of campaigns at Popcorn's Popular Conservatism. And so I'm going to ask him, Andrew, what does... Actually, I know what unpopular conservatism looks like. I'm still,
we all do.
I'm still recovering from 2 years ago, right? And actually, to be fair to Kemi, I don't care how much good PR she's getting. The needle is not moving. Have you any... First of all, what do you think of the Barnwell thing? And then we'll talk about how to make the needle move. What do you think?
Good morning, Kelvin. Yeah, I mean, I was delighted that Gavin Barwell was kicked out, and it was about time.
Yeah,
you are quite right when you say that the Lib Dems have moved very much to the left. So, is there a home in the Liberal Democrats for these people? Probably not.
Yeah.
But they are more sort of traditional Lib Dems, more traditional Blairite people, and the Conservative Party is pretty full of them. And she's certainly right to move against them. My only fear is that she's left it too late. When she first became leader of the Conservative Party, that's when she had the most power, didn't she? But now she's in here, and I don't know how long she's been Conservative leader for, about a year and 8 months thereabouts.
Yeah.
And she's left it a long time. And my fear as well, it's probably one of the reasons why I ended up leaving the Conservative Party late last year and joining Reform, is that I don't think that the Conservative Party is going to get anywhere near the reins of government for a very long time, no matter what she does. And I am a great admirer of her, but I just think that she's trying to push water uphill to try and get the Conservative Party credible again.
Okay, but it is a problem, isn't it? In the sense that that what I would have said were Conservatives back in the 80s and they began to lose shape into the 90s, right? In the 80s, it was quite clear that many of what I would describe as reformers were to the right of the Conservative Party. There was a left, okay? What I worry about today is, what is the Conservative Party? Who actually says, I'm a Conservative? And yet 21% in the polling are saying would potentially vote Conservative at an election. Those numbers don't seem to be represented whenever there is an election of any kind.
Yeah, I mean that's the difficult problem, isn't it? I mean, I know what a Conservative is, and I think I'm one of them. Sort of right-wing Thatcherism that was extremely popular in the 1980s. And even though I was only 12 at the time, Kelvin, I also remember when Francis Pym was booted out of office. But it did take Margaret Thatcher a long time to remove those wets. She needed to establish herself.
She did.
And it was after that 1983 general election that she really established herself.
She did. You're right.
I mean, that's when she shaped the government in her own image, really. And up until that point, it was extremely difficult for her. But there are plenty of people who I disagree with in the Conservative Party, but I think we agree on broadly on the same sort of principles of a smaller state, lower taxes, personal individual freedom and responsibilities. But there are too many in the Conservative Party who don't even agree with that. And it strikes me that no matter how large or small the parliamentary Conservative Party is, about a third of them are proper Conservatives. About a third of them are somewhere in the middle and don't really believe them very much. And about a third of them are people like Gavin Barwell, who are way off to the left. And really, for the Conservative Party to get back into office again, it does need the purge of these people who are really just using the Conservative Party as a flag of convenience, or perhaps to use another term that's popular today, they simply identify as Conservatives, but they're certainly not.
That's a good expression. So the next issue then, so here we are, we've got 3 years to go. I expect our economy actually to do rather better. I'm alone in this issue, but so it may be that I won't last very long. I expect our economy to do rather better over the next year, strangely enough, 18 months. You can't expend that amount of money as a government and not expect some increase in productivity, especially with AI coming in. So it may be bloody awful for employment, but it may be pretty good for commercial activity. So how do you see us? So the effect of that will be that Labour would look better. So Labour looks better. Reform looks as though it's in choppy waters, as you might expect in politics. How do you, where do you see the Conservatives? Are they going to advance? Are they going to stay still? Do they actually represent anybody anymore? What do they have to do? What do they actually, if you had to say, I've got three things the Conservatives have got to do to be successful, what would they be?
Well, one of the first ones is what Kemi has now started to do, which is to purge the party of the Wets, those people who are not conservative. So she's making a start. Just baby steps at the moment, but hopefully she will go on and do that. The second one is again what she's already stated. I mean, she said that net zero targets ought to be scrapped. She said that we should come out of the ECHR. So yes, policies like that are good policies, and she needs to keep on doing that. When it comes to the third point, well, I sort of rather struggle with this one, Kelvin, because I don't really think that she can do much more than she is doing already. I just think that the Conservative Party brand was pretty much trashed over the 2019 to 2024 period. I mean, you go back to
Yeah,
2019, and Boris Johnson came in on a wave of optimism in many
yeah,
ways. And of
yeah.
course, people didn't want Jeremy Corbyn as Prime Minister, which also helped. He was going to get Brexit done, etc. We all know that COVID, or the government's response to COVID, got in the way of that. But they then ditched Boris, and then they got Liz, and then Liz was there for 40 odd days, and then they got Rishi, who nobody really wanted. And they just went on pursuing the policies prior to 2019. And you've really got to ask yourself the question, between 2010 and 2024, under any metric that you use, the country moved more in a leftwards direction than in a conservative direction. And that was despite 14 years of either conservative majority or conservative led governments. And that is the problem. People just don't trust the Conservative Party anymore, no matter how good, I repeat, how good Kemi is.
So okay, let's just cut to the quick on this then. Are you saying, it sounds as though you're saying the Conservatives are actually over, that they are finished? How do you equate finished with, lying second in the polls?
Well, not lying second in the poll. I mean,
Well, they're
some
around
polls,
about
there's some
21% is the last ones I saw anyway.
Yeah. I suppose that's right. Yeah, I mean, there or thereabouts. That seems to move around a little bit, though, doesn't it,
Yeah, okay,
Kelvin?
all right, okay.
Between
But
Labour, yeah.
between 18 and 21, something like that.
There will always be a Conservative Party. I don't believe that the Conservative Party is finished as in completely dead. But I think there's a real risk that the Conservative Party could end up like the old Liberal Party in the early 1920s. It will still elect some MPs to Parliament. It could be a few dozen. It could be as much as 60 or 70. They could even get into some form of coalition, and this could happen after the next general election as well, Kelvin. There could be a coalition between the Conservatives and Reform. But I doubt in the next sort of 5 to 10 years, certainly, it's ever likely to form a majority of government again. I'm always wary of writing the Conservative Party off, because many people have done that over the years, and somehow or other it always seems to rise sort of phoenix-like out of the ashes. And continues, but I do think there's a real possibility it could end up like the Liberal Party 100 years ago, largely an irrelevance.
So a party, in a way, is like a company. If it's down on its luck, it's got to have new ideas, it's got to regenerate, needs a new chief executive to come in, new finance guy, all that kind of stuff. At the end of it, what about a Tory reform? On the ballot, at the ballot, is that a possibility? Or, by the sound of it, it's not in. But both leaders say it's not in our interest. If we thought it was in our interest, we do it.
Well, not long after the last general election, probably September, October in 2024, I did say that what I would like to see is some form of coupon election, which happened in 1918, where basically Kemi and Nigel do get together and say, "This is our
Yeah.
platform. This is what we stand for. These are our candidates. Vote for us." I would like to see some form of uniting of the right going on like that. At the moment, all that people on the parties on the right do, slag each other off and try to say they want to destroy each other. Well, that's not particularly very helpful at all, is it? Because if you look at the statistics, the country consistently votes for parties of the left more than it votes for parties of the right. The only reason Margaret Thatcher was successful in the 1980s was because she was the leader of the only party of the right, the Conservative Party. If it had been split like that, chances are the left would have got in. So the left are simply rubbing their hands in glee as they watch us try and tear each other apart. So we do need in some way to try and come together and work together at least a little bit to try and make sure that we defeat the left at the next general election, which of course could be next year.
Right. By the way, I totally buy that. I'm very glad that you make that point, because I was looking at the numbers the other day based upon the polling. You know, that deep dive that they do, which shows which way the people were. There is no doubt who wins the next general election. It is a coalition of the Greens, Lib Dems, and Labour, right? And and so that would mean, and I think that would set in train that this country, for a very decent length of time, is then basically a quite seriously left-run country, which would drove out on my estate right now. I live on an estate of about 20 houses. All right. They are large houses. Yeah, good. I am absolutely delighted I live in a large house. Okay? No ifs and buts about it. I like a large house. I've got a large house. I've worked bloody hard, and bollocks to the rest of you, right? So I just thought I'd just put that out there as a point of discussion. Right, on my estate, my next door neighbour has just legged it to Spain. Down the road, a guy coming up to retirement, they're going to go and live in the Algarve. Round the corner, a guy I know is selling a tech company, right? He's not big time tech. He's gone to live in the Isle of Man, okay? For tax reasons. Me, even though they might be carried out on gas and air, right? I'd like to go and live in the States, right? My missus, plenty of brains, big family over here. She said, "Do you want to go to America? See you later." Well, we only got married last year. That'd be ridiculous, right? So I'm not doing that, okay? But I would go there tomorrow, right? All I'm seeing around me is people who, given the opportunity, are moving out of the country. These are wealth makers. They were hard-working people. They weren't all geniuses. They're not all Rupert Murdochs. They're not all this, that, and the other. You know, they're just people who want to hang on to their cash. And we're going to have a load of bloody lefties come in who say, right, your cash, thanks very much. We're going to give it to the skint and the dim, right? We're just going to do that. And you, by the way, are not doing anything about it. There is nobody who's actually speaking for me. I never hear about Kemi talking about making money and about people being successful. I never talk about her saying, I tell you what, that bloody plumber making 80, 90 grand a year, good luck to him or her, right? The brickie, fantastic, right? I never hear about anybody, nor do I hear from Nigel saying, do you know what? What I love is people going out there, having a go, failing, dusting themselves down, getting up. In fact, I've dusted myself so far down, I was thinking of making a special dust-proof effing jacket, right? I've bloody lost more money than I've made at the end of it. But at least I'm sitting there with my bloody hand out when I reach 65 and saying, oh, I'm not feeling very well, I've got to go into a care home. You can pay for it. The fact you haven't saved any money. 98% of the country, the other 2% are having to fund them. This is available as a podcast, this, Andrew. Anyway, look, the point I'm really making is I'd like people to talk about making money. It's not a theory. It's not a theory. It's not, you know, you're not a professor, you're not this, you're not that. You're just trying to bloody well make a few bob to keep the wolf from the bloody door and actually buy a big house. But anyway. What's wrong? Why is this an exceptional thing to say? Because I never hear politicians say it.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, if you go to America, you mentioned America there. You go to America and somebody starts up a business
Yeah,
and it fails, and then they start up another business again. I say, good on him. He failed
yeah,
that time, but he might succeed this next time. The idea of making money and being successful is all part of it. Over here, it seems to be a different mentality. In fact, if you are successful, it seems that all people want to do is to try and knock you down. And we know about the exodus of millionaires from this
yeah,
country. They're the people who actually pay for everything. But what is an even greater fear, and this may well be happening, is that those who are likely to be very successful in the future, those people who are likely to be millionaires and
yeah,
pay lots of
yeah.
tax, they're just not even hanging around now because they see their opportunities in places like Dubai, as an example. And that's really worrying. And then going back to what we're talking about of this sort of left-wing coalition that could well come in, one thing I can guarantee, Kelvin, is that that left-wing coalition, and they'll have it in their manifestos, will be a change to the voting system.
Yeah,
And with that change to the voting system, they will
yeah,
guarantee that there will be a left-wing coalition in
y-
perpetuity.
yeah.
And that's where we're heading. The right really has to sort itself out and stop taking chunks out of each other, start being civil to each other, and start realizing that we may have our disagreements between Restore, Reform, and the Conservatives. Of course we do. And it's right to highlight those differences. You know, I'm a free marketeer, I believe in competition, but focus on who the real opponents are. And the real opponents are the Greens, the Lib Dems, and Labour. Focus on them.
Brilliant stuff, actually, Andrew. I'm sorry about my doctor told me not to get overexcited, but you managed to spark off that. That's very good to talk to you, Andrew. I certainly buy all this. I'm sure that you represent actually the views of this audience. I have absolutely no doubt. We need, in some odd way, if it's possible, to unite the right. It feels a long way away. But the other thing is, I want somebody to talk about making money. Nobody ever talks about making money. Anyway, Andrew, very good to see you. That's Andrew Allison. He's head of, actually, I think you're called Popcons or something, which is Popular Conservatives. I'm a member of the other one, which is Unpopular Conservatives, which is, or unpopular generally. Thank you very much indeed, Andrew.